to make it as such. Then in Child Guidance, page 536, it says, as the sun goes down, that's on Saturday night, let the voice of prayer and the hymn of praise mark the close of the sacred hours and invite God's presence through the cares of the week of labor. This should make us realize, if we haven't already, that the Sabbath is a 24-hour day, holy, honorable unto the Lord. And infiltrating our own pleasures in it is considered Sabbath breaking. Here, parents need to be careful and mindful. I'm a parent, and sometimes it is a struggle to know where to draw the line. Allowing our children to play outside on the Sabbath, play video games, or any other kind of entertainment is viewed as Sabbath breaking. Child Guidance, page 533 says, parents, above everything, take care of your children upon the Sabbath. Do not suffer them to violate God's holy day by playing in the house or out of doors. You may just as well break the Sabbath yourselves as to let your children do it. And when you suffer your children to wander about and suffer them to play upon the Sabbath, God looks upon you as Sabbath breakers. That's tough. I'm a parent. I know the struggle to try to come with activities that make the Sabbath exciting for them and at the same time to keep it holy. It is a struggle, trust me. I haven't always lived up to this standard, I confess. I know it's a struggle, but we need to have a reform in this area. This statement is sometimes something all the parents need to seek wisdom from God on how to do it. We need to make the Sabbath a day of delight for them and not to see it as a day of restrictions and unhappy time. And the Lord will guide you as you ask for that wisdom. Please read chapter 79 from this book, Child Guidance, called The Sabbath, the Day of Delight. It will help you tremendously. Also, in Isaiah 58, it also talks about not speaking your own words on the Sabbath. What does that mean? Since the Sabbath is God's day and not ours, we need to speak His words and not our own. That is to say that we need to have conversations about God and His Word during the Sabbath hours and not about worldly things we do during the week. Also in Child Guidance, page 529, it says, when the Sabbath commences, we should place a guard upon ourselves, upon our acts and our words, lest we rob God by appropriating to our own use that time which is strictly the Lord's. God requires not only that we refrain from physical labor upon the Sabbath, but that the mind be disciplined to dwell upon sacred themes. I'm not keeping the Sabbath holy if I'm having a business transaction or a conversation with someone on the Sabbath. Or if I discuss on how I'm going to fix my car on Monday with someone here and then tell them, well, this is what happened with my car, is breaking down and this, can you help me? That is not Sabbath hours discussions. The discussions we need to have is about Him, His Word, and how we can relieve suffering and pain from others. One of the things the sister I mentioned is to put away also all the worldly newspapers and books that might trigger worldly thoughts and conversations. Now, I realize that most of us won't have many or any physical newspapers or worldly books laying around, but we sure have our computer, our tablet, our smartphone to replace that. The Sabbath is not for checking the news or your social media platforms unless you're doing God's work with it. There are 6 days to do that, and for that will lead you to impure and unholy thoughts as you scroll through the online media, and will lead you to speaking your own words. Now, what about buying or selling? Nehemiah 10 verse 31, it says, if the peoples of the land brought wares, which is merchandise, or any grain to sell on the Sabbath day, we would not buy it from them on the Sabbath, or on a holy day, and we would forego the 7th year's produce and the exacting, which is the collection of every debt. And then Nehemiah 13:15-17 says, "In those days I saw people in Judah treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves and loading donkeys with wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I warned them about the day on which they were selling provisions. Men of Tyre dwelt there also, who brought in fish and all kinds of goods, and sold them on the Sabbath to the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah and said to them, 'What evil thing is this that you do by which you profane the Sabbath day?'" The Bible is clear that we are forbidden to buy or to sell anything on the Sabbath, and that includes going out to eat or getting a drink. Now, don't get me wrong, if you are in a dire situation and you just need medical attention or help, you can buy medications or things that would relieve suffering or pain on the moment. I went to the pharmacy many times before when my wife or someone was in dire need of medication. I had to buy it on the spot. But that is to relieve suffering and for the purpose of that, not for my own enjoyment and own pleasure. So, no grocery shopping on Sabbath, no Tim Hortons or Starbucks or any other fast food on Sabbath, no restaurant eating on the Sabbath, even if you're just visiting a different city for work or other purposes. Make sure you prepare on Friday accordingly for the Sabbath. Friday is also called the preparation day for that purpose, to prepare ahead of time for the Sabbath. And if you're visiting a church in a different city and it so happened that you didn't get a chance to prepare any food, I'm sure that a church member will be willing and welcoming you into their home, and you can have a meal with them. If not, there's always praying and fasting. There's a story about a banana plantation farmer that had a banana plantation farm in South America. One day before an approaching storm, a fleet of banana boats arrived in the nearby city port to pick up cargoes of bananas on Friday afternoon. It was unexpected, and they said, "We are leaving Saturday night because the storm is approaching. We cannot risk being in the port during the storm." Not wanting to risk their crops, most of the area farmers scrambled on Friday and Saturday morning to harvest their bananas and to make sure they get paid. But one Sabbath-keeping Christian quickly realized that we would not be able to do that and still keep the Sabbath holy. When some of the neighbors, I'm sure with good intentions, noticed that he did not have his workers out in the field, they said to him, "All the ships are leaving, and these are the last ships of the season. You will lose your whole crop." He answered, "I can't do it without breaking the Sabbath, so I figured that this is not my problem, it is God's. I will not do it." Instead, he chose to rest when God said to rest. But the people reasoned with him and said, "But what about your family? Surely God understands about that. You'll waste everything. You can even give some money to the church." But the man answered with the Bible, "Has God as great a delight in sacrifices and offerings as in obeying the voice of the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice. So what if I give the money to the church? God would rather have me obey." And they concluded he was insane. So they all went back to work, and they harvested their bananas, bringing them down to the ships and collecting their money. And as the ships disappeared on the horizon, this man was resting on the Sabbath with his family, while his bananas were still in his field. The next week, following the tropical storm, a straggler banana boat drifted into harbor. It had stalled in the sea with engine problems as the other ships had come and left. They still needed to buy bananas. And of course, all the other bananas were sold because all the farmers thought that these were all the boats that were supposed to come for the season. But the captain of the boat was now willing to pay twice as much for any bananas that were left if anyone still had some. God honors those that